Kaiba versus Lumis and Umbra. One of the rare Yugi and Kaiba team-ups, with the even rarer feat of Kaiba being the one to actually win this duel, with Yugi's help of course, and the power of teamwork. However, did you also know that this duel happened a couple episodes earlier? Albeit everybody is dueling selfishly during this duel, ultimately Lumis and Umbra get OTK'd by Kaiba. When they return for the rematch, they are now empowered by teamwork, and they also build a deck to counter Kaiba's Obelisk the Tormentor to make sure that doesn't happen again, but it happens anyway. Now, unfortunately, as cool as the main duel is, after analysing it, I realised that every single duelist in this duel screws the rules. And it is all to do with one very specific card. We'll learn more about that later. Let's jump into the duel. The duel begins and Kaiba goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon, 2 copies of Flute of Summoning Dragon, and Pot of Greed. Kaiba activates Pot of Greed to draw 2 new cards. He gets Lord of D and Hayo Zanryu. Kaiba summons Lord of D and then activates his 2 copies of the Flute of Summoning Dragon. Now he can special summon 4 dragons in his hand to the field. He summons everything. With this insane first turn, Kaiba ends his turn. It's Lumis's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of, I have no idea. It doesn't really matter because he's getting absolutely obliterated in a minute. We'll never see a single card he plays. Doesn't matter. He sets a mysterious monster face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Karibo, Mystical Ref Panel, Multiply, and some other mysterious cards. His cards also don't matter as well because Kaiba basically says to Yugi, Yugi, I don't need you for this one, I'm gonna solo this. Yugi's like, okay, bet, I'll just summon my Karibo into defense and just set these 2 cards face down and end my turn. It's Umbra's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws. His opening hand consists of blah blah blah, it doesn't really matter, he's about to get obliterated as well. All we do know is he has a fake copy of Mirror Force. He sets a mysterious monster face down alongside the fake Mirror Force and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Obelisk the Tormentor. He tributes his 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons to summon it. He then tributes his 2 remaining monsters to activate Obelisk's effect. Since he tributed 2 monsters, all monsters on the opponent's field are now destroyed. Then the opponents take 4,000 direct damage in the form of an attack. Umbra tries to use Mirror Force, but of course, it doesn't work on an Egyptian god card. So, Lumis and Umbra both take the first damage of the duel and simultaneously lose the duel as a result. Yugi and Kaiba win. Now let's be honest, with a god hand like that, there's no way they ever stood a chance in this one. We don't know what they had anyway. This was not a to be taken seriously duel. It was just to emphasize the fact that Kaiba's adamant on dueling solo. It's all about power and everybody is your enemy and stuff like that. Whereas Lumis and Umbra, they're gonna learn from this, they're gonna learn teamwork, and then Yugi and Kaiba are gonna have to learn teamwork afterwards. There is one more crucial thing about this duel, and that's the sponsor for today's video. To celebrate teamwork between rivals, NanAmerica have just released their brand new limited edition Platinum Finish Blue Eyes White Dragon and Dark Magician. You can think of these as ghost rare variants to the original gold designs, mainly because once they're gone, they are gone. I think the Platinum Finish looks great, and not gonna lie, I quite like the Blue Eyes Platinum Dragon and Platinum Magician look. Very snazzy. Luckily, by using my discount code TGS, you can get yourself a 5% exclusive discount to help you scoop them up before they're all gone. And not only that, but to celebrate the holiday season, NanAmerica are giving away an unlimited edition Red Eyes Black Dragon pendant to 25 people who use my code. Meaning, if 50 people use my code, half of them are guaranteed to get a Red Eyes freebie. Use the link in the description or pinned down in the comments alongside my discount code to get your hands on these genuine Platinum Finish cards. Thanks, NanAmerica. Now back to the video. The duel begins and Lumis goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Grand Tiki Elder, Mask of Brutality, Mask of Restrict, Curse Transfer, and 2 mysterious cards. These 2 mysterious cards will never be used, will never be seen, and ultimately get discarded later in the duel, so doesn't really matter too much. Lumis sets his Mask of Brutality and Curse Transfer face down and ends his turn. Quick refresher on tag duel rules during Battle City. Every duelist has their own 4,000 life points. Both duelists on each team have to be defeated to claim victory. You can defend your teammate from direct attacks with one of your monsters. You can't strategize and share plays with your teammate. You can talk to your teammate, obviously, but you just can't strategize and say, oh, I have this in my hand, what do you have in your hand, what are you about to do? You're not allowed to do that. It's worth noting that Lumis and Umbra break this rule throughout the entire match because they have little microphones in their masks so they can chat to each other. Anyway, it's Yugi's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Beta the Magnet Warrior, Karibo, Baphomet, Multiply, Card Destruction, and Shift. Yugi summons his Beta into defense and then ends his turn. It's Umbra's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Shining Abyss, Masked Doll, Curse of the Masked Beast, and 3 mysterious cards. Same thing for these mysterious cards, never be used, never be played, never been seen, get discarded later in the duel, so ultimately they don't matter too much. Umbra summons his Shining Abyss into defense. As he does this, Lumis activates his set equip spell, Mask of Brutality. Quick reminder about Battle City rules, you can set normal spells, equip spells, and then during the battle phase, they become quick play spells, so you can activate them then. And they also, during your opponent's turn, are also quick play spells. So that's something that happens in Battle City if you don't remember. So if you wonder why Lumis and Umbra can activate their spells like quick play spells, that is why. Lumis equips his Mask of Brutality to Shining Abyss. While equipped, it increases the attack of the monster by 1,000, while also lowering the defense of the monster by 1,000. Typically, the maintenance cost of this card is that Lumis would have to pay 1,000 life points during each of his standby phases. However, Umbra activates his continuous spell, Masked Doll. This negates all maintenance costs for mask cards on the field. With no more plays, Umbra ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Saggy the Dark Clown, Vorse Raider, Battle Ox, Monster Reborn, Ring of Destruction, and Ring of Defense. Kaiba sets Ring of Destruction and Ring of Defense face down. He summons Vorse Raider into attack and then ends his turn. Small anime error here. Kaiba calls his Battle Ox a level 6 monster.
俺の手札にはすでに6つ星の強力モンスターがある。次のターンでブラッドボルスを生贄にし、こいつを召喚する。
The reason for this is because in the manga, Battle Ox is a level 6 monster, and what's just happened is the animators have forgot to adapt it for the anime version. And in a rare case, the dub actually fixes a problem of the sub by replacing the card with a more powerful one. So, with everybody having their first turn, the battle phases are now live. It's back to Lumis, and he draws Mask of the Accursed. He activates it, equipping it to Yugi's Beta the Magnet Warrior. Now, while equipped, Beta can't attack. If Beta is the only monster on Yugi's side of the field, he can be attacked directly. Also, during each of Yugi's standby phases, he will take 500 damage. Lumis sets his Mask of Restrict face down, and then ends his turn. Now, Lumis could have summoned his Grand Tiki Elder here and attacked Yugi directly. Why didn't he do this? Well, it's actually because of the rules of tag duels. Weirdly, this is something I never considered because I'm so used to weaker monsters tanking stronger monsters' attack and getting blown up when they defend another player. But there's no reason why Kaiba couldn't throw his Vorse Raider in the line of fire for Yugi so that Grand Tiki Elder would attack into Vorse Raider instead, so that would destroy Grand Tiki Elder. So with that in mind, that means for the rest of this duel, you will not be able to attack an opponent directly unless you have the highest attack point monster on the field. That's quite interesting. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Beast of Gilfer. The standby phase occurs, and Yugi takes 500 damage from Mask of the Accursed. Yugi takes the first damage of the duel. Yugi attempts to tribute Beta the Magnet Warrior for Beast of Gilfer. However, Lumis activates Mask of Restrict. Now, while this continuous trap remains face up on the field, cards cannot be tributed. That is what is written on the card. Cards cannot be tributed in any way. I'll double check though, maybe there's a translation error here. So let's have a look what the card actually says, because we do see the card, we see its text. Google Translate says it says, no sacrifices of any kind can be made. Gemini AI says in any case, sacrifices will no longer be possible. Final check, what does Umbra say about this card? Mask of Restrict is a trap that stops all tributing. Perfect, that's crystal clear. We know exactly what this card, wait, what's that? He's still talking? Yeah, as long as this trap is on the field, you're not allowed to tribute your monsters. Later in the duel, Yugi's gonna take that extra sentence he added on as literal fact. You said that I can't tribute my monsters to summon my monsters. So that means I can tribute your monsters, right? I'm allowed to do that. Well, no, I take what he's saying here as hyperbole. It's just sort of making it clear why he used this card. I've used this card to stop all tributes, but the main benefit I'm getting from this is that you can't tribute your monsters to summon your tribute summonable monsters. That's what I've done this for. I don't think it was meant to be taken as literal fact, but it will be. Anyway, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. This isn't an issue just yet. We'll get to it when we get to it, but all you need to know, Yugi can't tribute summon, so he can't summon his Gilfer or Baphomet in his hand. Instead, he has to set his multiply and summon Kaiba into defense and ends his turn. It's Umbra's turn, and he draws Spell Transfer. He sets it face down and then switches Shining Abyss into attack. He enters his battle phase and attacks Force Raider. Kaiba activates Ring of Destruction in response. This lets him destroy a monster and then inflict damage to both players equal to the destroyed monster's attack. He targets Shining Abyss, however Lumis activates Curse Transfer, which redirects a trap card's effect to another monster. He swaps the target of Ring of Destruction to Force Raider. It is destroyed instead. Before the damage can be dealt, Kaiba activates his Ring of Defense to negate any effect damage he would take. However, Umbra activates his set Spell Transfer, which negates a spell during the opponent's turn and then lets Umbra use its effect instead. Ring of Defense is negated for Kaiba, but activates for Umbra. Only Kaiba is the one to take any damage. A replay occurs since the number of monsters on the field changed, and since there are no monsters on Kaiba's side of the field, Umbra attempts to attack directly. Luckily for Kaiba, since he would be eliminated from this attack, Yugi activates his Multiply, targeting a monster with 500 or less attack he controls. He targets Kaiba. Now, due to Multiply's effect, according to its text, Kaiba is divided into countless copies. Which, to put that into game logic, I think means that Kaiba now takes up all of Yugi's free monster zones, and whenever one would be removed from the field, it immediately replaces itself. Basically, it is impossible now to attack Yugi and Kaiba directly, while the multiply Kaibos remain on the field. Yugi uses one of his infinite Kaibos to block the attack for Kaiba. It is destroyed and then immediately regenerates. Umbra ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Blue Eyes White Dragon. With no way to tribute summon due to Mask of Restrict, Kaiba sets his Monster Reborn face down and then summons Battle Ox into defense. He ends his turn. It's Lumis's turn, and he draws Mask of Dispel. Now, apparently, Multiply, despite not being a continuous spell, has remained face up on the field. I can only assume this has happened because it is a lingering effect of some kind. It should just go to the grave because it doesn't state on the card, leave this card face up on the field, whatever. So, because it's on the field, that's how Lumis is going to get rid of it now. I assume it's fine. I guess it's fine. It must be fine, but I wish they just stated on the card, this card remains face up on the field. If it is removed from the field, then remove any multiplied Kaibos or anything like that. So, just one of those. Lumis activates his Mask of Dispel, targeting Multiply. Now, while equipped to a spell, its effects are negated, meaning all but the original Kaibos are removed from the field. Also, Yugi will take a further 500 damage during each of his standby phases. Lumis summons his Grand Tiki Elder and then attacks and destroys Kaiba. Lumis ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Chain Destruction. The standby phase occurs, and both Mask of the Accursed and Dispel deal damage to Yugi. Yugi is initially worried about potentially ruining Kaiba's hand with his card Destruction. However, he needs to use it as his hand is dead. Luckily, Kaiba oh so subtly hints at the fact that, well, monsters that can't be summoned, they're trash and they belong in the graveyard. Monsters that can't be summoned need to be in the graveyard, you see, Yugi. As subtle as a brick, Kaiba is. Lumis and Umbra think they're just bickering, so they never call them out for strategizing. However, Yugi gets the hint and sets his card destruction face down and ends his turn. Now, personally, I was always confused why Yugi didn't just shotgun activate card destruction here. Maybe he could have gone on the offensive, like, now. Well, it turns out it actually would have been a bad thing. Yugi doing this meant he could have destroyed Lumis's monster and deal a little bit of damage. But Umbra would then be able to get out his Mass Beast sooner, since he now has his Desgardius in hand to use as the cost for its summon. This would then be able to attack and destroy Yugi's Alpha, dealing 1700 damage, leaving him with 800 life points left. This would mean on Yugi's next turn, when he takes 1000 damage from the Mass cards, he's out. With Yugi out, Kaiba can't get out any bigger monsters than the Mass Beasts. Lumis and Umbra would then focus on Kaiba and eliminate him. Kaiba's only hope of victory would be if Lumis and Umbra got out 3 monsters onto their side of the field, and then Kaiba uses Soul Exchange to summon his Obelisk using their 3 monsters. However, that seems unlikely, as Lumis and Umbra tend to not get very many monsters out at a time. So yeah, no good. Well done, Yugi, for not overplaying. It's Umbra's turn, and he draws his ritual monster, the Masked Beasts. Or does he? I've made what I think is a shocking discovery. I'm going to do a full video of this in the future to make sure 100%. I think ritual monsters are extra deck monsters. I know, that sounds crazy, that can't be true, but I think it is. This applies only for Battle City. In total, there are 4 ritual summons throughout the entire arc. Zera the Mant, Fortress Whale, the Mass Beast, and Mystical Beast Circuit. Whenever any of these are summoned, the number of cards in the hand doesn't change. Not only that, but we never see the rituals being in the hand either, meaning these monsters are being summoned from the extra deck. If he had the Mass Beast in hand, which is how we normally summon ritual monsters in the real world, he should then have 3 cards in his hand, but he doesn't. So it only makes sense to have this amount of cards in his hand at the end of this turn if when he ritual summoned, he only used 1 card in his hand, which is ritual spell. So I'm assuming then he drew the ritual spell this turn. Wherever I said he had it before, just replace that with a mysterious card. Those are my findings. Am I the first one to discover this? Can you find any evidence on the internet of somebody else saying this? I don't know. World exclusive. Anyway, let's get back to the duel. There's more shenanigans about to come. With his ritual spell in hand, he activates it. Now, by tributing 8 or more stars from the field or in his hand, he can ritual summon it. Umbra tributes his level 4 Shining Abyss with Lumis's level 4 Grand Tiki Elder to ritual summon Curse of the Masked Beast. Yes, despite the fact Mask of Restrict is on the field saying nobody's allowed to tribute cards under any circumstances, alright? They are tributing cards for the cost of a ritual summon. Right, Umbra even says, yo, my partner and I each tribute a monster. He even says it! How is he able to do it? Now, you might say that, oh, maybe tribute just specifies that you can't tribute summon, you know, like a normal tribute summon kind of thing. But they're gonna make a big fuss later about another type of tribute summon, which isn't a typical tribute summon or something like that. So while in the real world, this would be a completely illegal play, I have to only assume by tribute, they are saying that you can only not tribute summon, typical tribute summons or something like that. That's the only way this could make sense, right? But it says no tributes. It doesn't say tribute summon, it says tributes. All right, whatever. Umbra enters his battle phase and attempts to attack Yugi directly. Luckily, since this is a direct attack, Kaiba returns the favor from earlier by protecting Yugi with his Battle Ox. Battle Ox is destroyed. With no further plays, Umbra ends his turn. However, as he does, Yugi activates his set, Card Destruction. Now, every duelist discards their entire hand and then draws the same amount of cards they discarded. Yugi discards 4 cards: Beast of Gilfer, Baphomet, Chain Disappearance, and Shift. He draws Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Valkyrian the Magna Warrior, Defusion, and a mysterious card. Lumis discards 2 mysterious cards. He draws Mask of Brutality and Mask of Weakness. Kaiba discards 2 cards, Blue Eyes White Dragon and Saggy the Dark Clown. He draws Sword Stalker and Polymerization. Umbra discards 4 mysterious cards, He draws Mask of Impregnability, Masked Beast Desgardius, Rogue Doll, and a mysterious spell. Due to Beast of Gilfer going from Yugi's hand to the grave, its effect activates, which lets it equip itself to a monster and decrease its attack by 500. Yugi sneakily equips it to the Masked Beast, reducing its attack to 2700. No one knows this has happened, but it's not like a shenanigan or anything like that because Umbra couldn't have done anything. It was his end phase, so he couldn't alter his monster in any way, shape or form, so no misplays from me, but yeah, it is a bit sneaky when they attach these monsters. It's just for the suspense of us, the audience. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Obelisk the Tormentor. He activates his set Monster Reborn to special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon in his grave. Yugi asks Kaiba to believe in the power of teamwork here, and trust that if he uses Blue Eyes to attack, it will win the battle. Again, keep in mind that Kaiba doesn't know that their monster is weakened by Beast of Gilfer. Kaiba reluctantly does trust Yugi and attacks and destroys the masked beasts. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Lumis's turn, and he draws Melkid the Four-Faced Beasts. He sets it face down alongside Mask of Brutality and Mask of Weakness and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Mystical Ref Panel. The standby phase occurs and Yugi takes damage from both Mask of the Accursed and Dispel. Yugi sets Mystical Ref Panel face down and then summons Alpha the Magnet Warrior. He enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Lumis' set Melkid. Yugi ends his turn. It's Umbra's turn, and he draws a mysterious spell. He summons his Rogue Doll to the field. Lumis tells Umbra to trust that his attack will be successful. This play is a parallel to what Yugi and Kaiba just did. Can their teamwork do the same as them? Well, let's find out. Umbra trusts Lumis and attacks Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon with Rogue Doll. Mid-attack, Lumis activates Mask of Weakness to decrease the attack of Blue Eyes. He then activates Mask of Brutality to boost Rogue Doll's attack by 1000. Yugi, however, is having none of this and activates Mystical Ref Panel. This card switches a target of a card to another monster. He switches Mask of Brutality's effect to Blue Eyes White Dragon. Rogue Doll's attack returns to normal, while Blue Eyes White Dragon's attack rises by 1000 despite it being weakened. Rogue Doll is destroyed. However, due to its destruction, the Mask of Brutality that was equipped to Rogue Doll but its effects was being transferred to Blue Eyes White Dragon. Since it went away, the effect of boosting Blue Eyes White Dragon also went away. Umbra sets Mask of Impregnability face down and ends his turn. As he does, Blue Eyes' attack returns to normal. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Soul Exchange. Kaiba moves straight into his battle phase and uses Blue Eyes to attack Umbra directly, attempting to defeat him. Lumis, in response, activates his Mask of Impregnability to reduce all battle damage he takes from direct attacks this turn to 0. Kaiba ends his turn. As he does, Kaiba starts sowing seeds of doubt between the pair by saying, by the way, if I'd have attacked you because you were also open for a direct attack, do you think he would have defended you with that spell? Or do you think he would have kept it for himself just in case? It's Lumis' turn and he draws Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets Chosen One and Card Exchange. He sets Chosen One face down and then activates one of the most broken cards I have ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Exchange. What does it do? Well, it lets you straight up swap hands with your opponent, regardless of how many cards you have and regardless of how many cards they have. You have a hand of 0, they have a hand of 6, just swap hands. That's insane. And guess what? He's gonna use it wrong. Lumis activates Card Exchange, which lets him swap hands with somebody. Since this is a tag duel, he is also allowed to designate his teammate as a target. He does this. He and Umbra swap hands. Since Lumis' hand was empty, Umbra gets nothing, whereas Lumis gets his hand of 3, which is Masked Beast Desgardius and 2 mysterious spells. Now, Lumis activates his set Chosen One. By selecting one monster in his hand along with 2 non-monster cards, one of them is picked at random. If it's the monster, it's summoned to the field, ignoring its summoning conditions. With a 33% chance, the play is successful. Desgardius is summoned to the field, ignoring its summoning conditions. The 2 mysterious spells are sent to the grave. Note, I have never noticed that Desgardius has a naked woman's upper torso strapped in bondage gear on his chest. It's in the international artwork of the card, like it's never been censored. You can hardly see it. I've never noticed that before. This was my first time. Now, with a 3,300 attack point monster on the field, Lumis is faced with a choice. Attack Yugi's attack position Magnet Warrior and eliminate Yugi, or attack and destroy Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon, as it's the only monster that could possibly pose a threat. Choices. Which one will he go for? Well, obviously, eliminating Yugi is the absolute right decision here, because that would mean it become a 2-on-1 situation. They can just pile all the pressure on Kaiba. It would eliminate Yugi and any of his options that he has available. So that's the obvious right choice. And Lumis does come to this conclusion as well. But unfortunately, after being gaslit by both Kaiba and his own partner, he is convinced to attack Blue Eyes instead. The logic is Yugi only has weak monsters in his side of the field. We can get rid of those whenever, but that Blue Eyes, if he gets like an attack boost or something, that could be a problem. We'll get rid of that now. Foolishly, Lumis attacks and destroys Blue Eyes White Dragon. Lumis ends his turn. So, hypothetically, had Lumis stuck with his gut, attacked and eliminated Yugi, what would have happened? Well, since Yugi's been eliminated, we move straight to Umbra's turn. He can't do anything, so he has to end his turn by setting Masquerade. It's Kaiba's turn, and he activates Soul Exchange, tributing Desgardius to summon his Swordstalker. Desgardius' effect activates, taking control of Kaiba's Blue Eyes. Lumis uses Blue Eyes to attack and destroy Swordstalker. Umbra's turn, he activates Masquerade, takes control of Blue Eyes, and attacks Kaiba for game. So yeah, they could have won. Lumis should have just trusted your gut. But guess what? That's not the only way they could have won the duel. Lumis could have done an even more amazing move by using his card exchange on Kaiba. You have this really broken card. You can swap hands with your opponent. You know for a fact that your opponents are playing Egyptian god cards. Yugi isn't, he hasn't put in his deck yet, but you know for a fact Kaiba is. He has a big hand. I think he's got like 3 or 4 cards in his hand. Why not just give Kaiba your 0 card hand and just take his cards? There must be something in there, and even if there's not, you're getting rid of Kaiba's options. Had Lumis done this, he would have taken Kaiba's Obelisk the Tormentor and Soul Exchange. He could then activate Soul Exchange, tribute Blue Eyes White Dragon and the 2 Magna Warriors on the opponent's side of the field, attack Yugioh or Kaiba with Obelisk the Tormentor. One of them are now dead. Next turn, whoever's left alive can't do anything. Eventually we get back to Lumis. He attacks the last person left and wins the duel. Now obviously Lumis doesn't know what's in Kaiba's hand, so you have to kind of know what's in his hand to know it's worthwhile. But you're taking his hand, giving him nothing and not taking cards from your teammates. It's ridiculous. So yeah, huge misplay Lumis. Could have won the duel in 2 different ways. It's Yugi's turn, and the pre-anti-penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Gamma the Magnet Warrior. The standby phase occurs, and Yugi takes damage from the mass cards. With all the pieces in place, Yugi summons his Gamma the Magnet Warrior. Now here is where we get another bit of shenanigans. Yugi tributes his Alpha, Beta, and Gamma to summon his Valkyrion the Magna Warrior in his hand. Now, everyone in this duel, luckily, makes a big point of, whoa, calm down, mate. You're not allowed to tribute cards. We've got Mask of Restrict on the field. And Yugi's like, I know, I'm not tributing my cards. I'm combining and transforming them instead. Now, that's cute, Yugi. If you want to call this a sort of form of contact fusion, I see where you're coming from. But unfortunately, I have the receipts. Fast forward to a future duel where Yugi summons this monster and oh, look at that. We are tributing Alpha, Beta, and Gamma to summon Valkyrion this time. Funny how that works, isn't it? It's one thing one time and one thing another time. So we're gonna have to go with the fact that these tributes, in the same way that the ritual tributes are not tribute summons, that is what Mask of Restrict is specifically stopping. So fine. You can tribute, even though it says you can't do any form of tributes, if it's to summon a special type of tribute effect summon, and you can also tribute for a ritual tribute. I'm sure there won't be any more shenanigans with this card for the rest of this duel. With Valkyrion the Magna Warrior on the field, Yugi sets his defusion face down and then attacks and destroys Mass Beast Desgardius. Due to Desgardius' effect, when it is sent from the field to the grave, Mask of Remnants is activated from Lumis' deck and equips itself onto the monster that destroyed it. Due to the Mask of Remnants effect, Valkyrion the Magna Warrior moves to Lumis' side of the field. Yugi ends his turn. Now, this is all part of Yugi's strategy. It's very risky, I will say that. But he could have made it so much less risky by when the mask tried to equip itself onto his monster, or when it did equip itself in response, use Defusion, split up that Valkyrion, get the free monster on your side of the field into attack, and eliminate Lumis. You had that option. Why didn't he do it? It would have, by the way, resulted in their win because, well, Lumis would be eliminated now. Umbra wouldn't have had any plays at all. Go to Kaiba, he couldn't summon anything at all. But then we go back to Yugi and he just wins the duel. I guess the reason they didn't want to do this is because this is more about Kaiba learning teamwork and getting the win in this one. So still, it's a misplay, Yugi. I'm sorry. It's Umbra's turn, and the anti-penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Masquerade. He activates it. Thanks to its effect, he can permanently take control of any monster equipped with a mask card. He takes control of Valkyrion equipped with Mask of Remnants on Lumis's field. Umbra enters his battle phase and attacks Yugi directly. Yugi, however, activates his set Defusion to return Valkyrion back to... Wait, where does it go? Normally, fusion monsters go back to the extra deck. So I'm assuming that Valkyrion will go back to wherever it was prior to being summoned to the field, which means it goes back to Yugi's hand. Regardless, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma are summoned from Yugi's grave into defense to Umbra's side of the field. With no further plays, Umbra ends his turn. Now I'm gonna have to mention it, defusing the opponent's monster if you have the materials in your graveyard, they should get summoned to your side of the field. But in the anime, whoever is the controller of a monster tends to be the owner, so that is why the monsters got summoned to the opponent's field in this case. It's Kaiba's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. Kaiba activates his Soul Exchange. Now, due to this card's effect, he can tribute any amount of opponent's monsters as if they were his own. Yet again, despite the fact that Mask of Restrict is on the field, Kaiba tributes Alpha, Beta, and Gamma on Umbra's side of the field to tribute summon his Egyptian god, Obelisk the Tormentor. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, what are you doing? So this is an actual tribute summon, so Mask of Restrict should stop this summon at the very least. Why doesn't it? Well, it's all because Umbra, or Lumis, whoever it was, earlier in the duel said, oh, you can't tribute your monsters to summon your tribute summonable monsters. And everybody took that really literal. I assume he was just clarifying why he played this card. This is the big benefit from it. So because of this, we're allowed to tribute opponents' monsters because it's not my monsters I'm tributing, it's the opponent's monsters. I can't believe how much shenanigans is in this duel. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's no point arguing. It's a shenanigan. You shouldn't really be allowed to do this, but it's happened now, so what are we gonna do? Anyway, Obelisk attacks Umbra directly. Umbra is eliminated from the duel. It's Lumis's turn, and the final turn of the duel. Fearing he has no way to win at all, he attempts to flee the duel. However, Marek possesses him, talks to Yugi and Kaiba for a bit, and then after the mind washing thing, he just collapses, and they lose the duel due to forfeit. So yeah, that was Yugi and Kaiba's tag duel, full to the brim with shenanigans. But the moral of the story is, don't put a card on the field that says no tributes if you're going to tribute cards anyway. Want to watch me do in real life things? Well, I have a video for that right here. Or if you'd rather watch a video on Kaiba and Yugi as well, I have another video right here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you later.